our interpreters into the different language groups. Thank you for those explainers and those that are coming alongside the scaffolders, in our business coaches. Lord, I thank you for each and every one. Lord, I thank you for Xander. I thank you for Bunchun. I thank you for David. I thank you for Norma. I thank you, Lord God, for for Brian. I thank you, Lord God, for the different ones, Lord, that are stepping forward, Ying and others, Lord, fathers of the land, elders at the gate, statesmen, and those that are lobbying and advocating for faithfulness in the family, in the land. Lord, Psalm 37, verse 3, faithfulness, Lord, dwelling in the land and being faithful. Lord, I thank you for our speakers, for Alex from Sydney and from Sydney University, and then David also from the community of entrepreneurs. Lord, I thank you, Lord God, for Nigel as he shares his testimony from the epicenter projects in Nepal. And Lord, I pray especially for all the participants that are listening to us out in social media, or all the media arts consultants as well that are consulting for us, Lord, praying for Jean Purcell in Business English, and so many others that have put their shoulder to the work. Lord, this is your work. I want to render this entire conference and this entire venture and joint ventures, and all those that have projects, those that are looking at a mountain, looks like a mountain, a huge, great big challenges that they are facing in their communities, among the poor, among the disenfranchised, the fringe communities that are facing abject poverty and need solutions and need answers. Lord, we want to declare this IDS to open. We want to declare that the Philadelphian spirit, we want to declare the free agency of the angel Dikayon. Right now, we call forth upon Hilasmon, the angel Hilasmon, the angel of mercy. We call forth the angel of Logon. We release the angel of Logon, of systematic thinking, design thinking. We call forth the angel of Aletheia, of future truth and revelation and apocalypse upon this group. I call forth, especially, Lord God, I call forth upon all the angels of excellence that deliver excellence, and all the didactic angels as well, to teach us and open our ears that we may truly hear and understand the need to develop faithfulness in the land, to dwell in the land, and to step out of the boat like Peter did upon the waters, and to come to Jesus. Lord, I thank you and I bless you for this amazing opportunity, and the amazing ideas that will be shared in this hour. And I pray, Lord, that you would just open our hearts and open our ears and open our eyes. Lord, strengthen the resolve and determination to do good in the land, and also to cultivate faithfulness. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Well, once again, it's 5 minutes past 10 in Singapore and Manila. It's 5 minutes past 7 in Pakistan, and 7:35 in India, and 5 minutes past 9 in Hanoi in Vietnam. So welcome to IDESTA 2021. Cheyenne Sia is going to give you the mechanics and the timeline for this. She's one of my students in modalities for life, and I will give you more information how you can also join our community, our modalities community, on our Discord server. I'll put that link, that active link, in the chat box in the Zoom. Okay, over to you, Cheyenne.
Hi. Okay, there's a bit of an echo. Okay, I'll go through the dynamics. Yeah, sorry, we are sorting out the sound at this point. Yeah, so if we are able to look at the timelines, today it's really for you to learn. If there is anything you need to know, please ask Alex or David at any point in the chat. This is so that you can get your answers cleared up, and then you don't need to wait and probably ask on Discord and maybe hope for a response. Some of us might not respond that quickly. So if you have questions, just jot it down, put it down in the chat, and we will see how we can answer. And we will go to the timeline. So there are a couple of things that I want to emphasize. Firstly, the submission. We will give you the link for submission on very shortly. We will also put it in the chat later. You can put your ideas addressing the various components of the business canvas. Yeah, so for the idea submission, it will be on the 24th of July, midnight. It is okay if you cannot make it for this time. We understand that you might have other commitments and all this, but if you're unable to make it by midnight of 24th of July, it is okay. Just join us for the next one and submit your ideas for the next Shark Tank. This is the first, and it will not be the last time we have Shark Tank. And by the 31st of July, the judges and the business coaches would have shortlisted the ideas. We will give comments for everyone who has submitted. And everyone who has submitted their ideas, all these comments will be helpful for you in the next round when you pitch your ideas to everyone. It may just be as simple as rewriting certain things, emphasizing on certain points of your business to make it more feasible. And feasible, what we mean is that, even without the prize money, you can still continue on your business in what we call, you don't need to keep taking handouts from people to make your business work. Okay, so the comments will be very helpful because a lot of these come from people who have done businesses. Some have multiple businesses, some have consulted multiple businesses. Take it with a heart to learn, modify your ideas, and who knows, maybe in the second or the third round, you can get your ideas shortlisted. Okay, so on the 9th of August, we will actually set up on the Discord server the idea pit. We will invite you to a Zoom meeting with some of the judges and probably some of the coaches for you to pitch. It will be a 5-minute pitch, so you can practice, be short, make your main point across, but the more important thing is we want to see how you and maybe some of your team members work together. It will be with a couple, so it will be a 5-minute pitch maximum with maybe 3 to 5 minutes of question and answer from the judges and the coaches. We will take some time to deliberate. We will also look for investors. And by the 20th, we would have decided on what projects to go ahead and to fund. So do not be discouraged if your project is not shortlisted. Maybe it just needs a bit more work. Maybe it just needs a bit more timing. And then when we have finished with everything, on the 27th of August, the entrepreneurs will be meeting with their coaches. They will go ahead with their projects. And then we will explain a lot more about the projects in later phase, like how long it will take, what are we looking for, and all this. So if we go to the next slide, I'm just giving you a brief idea on, this is the business model canvas that Alex will be covering later. These are the percentages and weightage. Do not worry, we will give you the link to even this picture later. We will release it in the Discord and in the chat. So these are the percentages we will be judging and scoring the submissions on. It is okay if you don't have PowerPoint, if you don't have the software. You can draw it as long as you write legibly. We can understand what you are writing. We can accept that you can even take photos of what you are writing and what you have submitted. You can also write it in paragraphs if you are more comfortable with it. We are flexible with how you present, but we need to understand your idea. Okay, so that is all on my side. Let me know if you have any questions regarding the timelines or maybe even the percentages later. Just type it in the chat and I will hand it back to Pastor Jerry at this point.
Okay, I need to be unmuted. Okay, great. Fantastic. Saran, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Thank you. All right, now I'd like to introduce to you my son-in-law, Alex Carpenter, from the University of Sydney. He has kindly stepped forward with, I've already put his credentials on the flyer, so you can read it there, but he has dealt with many social impact projects before, so we are going to give the time over to him. After that, immediately after that, we're going to give you an example of the kinds of projects that we're looking at, and I'm going to introduce to you also Singaporean of the Year, Nigel Cow, who 5 years ago was involved in the rehabilitation of an entire valley up at around 4,000 meters in Nepal, building 3 schools and raising from just $11 in his pocket, raising $1 million to help the families there. Then after that, also some final concluding remarks from Dr. David Ang, who's with a community of entrepreneurs that he is developing. And we're going to give you some polish off the 2-hour segment here with some concluding remarks and a prayer. So once again, we would like to welcome all of those contestants and candidates that are joining us for the first time on Mods TV and here at the IDESTA. Alex, are you ready to go?
I am, yeah.
Okay, great. Good to hear your voice, and over to you.
Wonderful.
You're a little bit sideways, right?
Oh,
okay, just maybe. There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll see if I can keep it that way. My computer is seeming to crash, but this is happening on my phone. So I'm gonna try and fix my computer as we go. But the link to the stuff that I'm going to be talking through should be able to get put in the chat, so you can walk with me as we go through it all. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask them. To give you a little bit of background, I run the startup programs and I'm an associate lecturer at the University of Sydney in entrepreneurship. So I spend most of my time coaching startup founders, and I've had 6 companies in the past. 2 of them went well enough to fund the other 4, and so I've had a lot of experience in this, and probably haven't. There's probably no unique question that you could have. So if you've got any sort of question, probably heard it before, and are very happy to help. So to begin with, there's a couple of key points about coming up with ideas and validating them. So the main one is if there isn't an existing solution to a problem, then it's probably not a problem worth solving. So I'm going to repeat that and explain it a bit further. So if someone has a problem, then there is usually a solution for it. If there isn't a solution, it might be a bad solution, but if there isn't a solution for it, then it's probably not a problem. Because a lot of people develop businesses that actually don't serve any function. There's no market need. There's no point. There's no one actually wants to buy that thing. So if you think about anything that you actually buy, whether it be electricity or water or any product whatsoever, all of those are solutions to the problem that you're feeling. So if you're starting to think about a new idea or a new business, you've got to think through how is my customer currently solving this problem? And that might be that, they have to engineer a solution to that problem that is not very good, and you're going to create a better solution to that, which is a really good way to go. But it's all rooted in business, by definition, is solving problems. We are problem solvers, and we figure out how to do that in a sustainable, which means profitable way. So we solve problems at large scales and make a profit while doing it. And so finding problems is pretty easy, but it's figuring out whether or not it's a problem that's worth solving is the challenge. So the best place is to look at in your life, or talking to people and just asking, like, what are your current problems, and maybe trying to figure out a way to solve those. And then you start to try and build what's called an MVP, or a minimal viable product, which is a really simple way just to prove that you can create a solution for that problem. Once you've developed the MVP, then you can actually start to build it up and make it more sophisticated. And that's kind of where there's the first two steps of any business: identifying the problem and then prototyping and coming up with an MVP as a solution. So in that business model canvas that you saw a moment ago, that's really a really commonly used, very good tool in order to lay out the business on one page. So it's not meant to be exhaustive. You're meant to just put dot points in each of those cells. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Alex. It's just someone unmuted.
Sure. Each of those cells in that business model canvas, they can have, 1 or 2 or 3 dot points. It doesn't need to be a lot, but it gives a judge or an investor a really quick, easy one-pager to get a feel for what you're actually doing, and where the potential might be. So there's some, differences in those, like customer channels and customer relationships. Often people get confused about, what's that mean, and what does that one there. Often people get overly confused about the differences between those. Don't worry too much, because, like, if we're looking at customer relationships, customer segments, and channels, they're all different, but don't get bogged down in the definitions and think, should this go here, here, or here? Just put it on there. So don't get too bogged down. But I'll go through each of these cells, because I suppose this is the thing that you're going to be filling out, and I'll give you a structure of which cell to fill out first. But basically, the first place to start is the key propositions, or the value propositions. So right in the middle, that's where you want to start. And that's where the problem is. That's where the problem fits. So I'm going to do this for this customer, and that's the value, that's the solution that I'm going to deliver. And so it's really framing everything from the customer's perspective. That's the key part. So once you've got an understanding of the problem and the solution that you're going to do, then you move on to key activities and key resources. They're 2 and 3. So key activities are, if someone is thirsty, that's the problem. The solution would be to give them water. Well, the key activity would be delivering water to the person who is thirsty. And so I'll take this analogy through just to make it nice and simple. And then the key resources would be water, and the delivery truck, and the bottle, and the petrol in the delivery truck. There'd be quite a lot. And so you don't need to be exhaustive. It's just like conceptualizing your business and putting it on one page. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And then you would go into key partnerships. They're focused on, the point here is key. So if they're a useful partner, if they would help your business, they're not a key partner. A key partner is someone that actually makes your business run. Who do you rely on in order for your business to run and get a competitive advantage? So what that means is, if you're selling water in a bottle, then your key partner is the primary source of water. You need to know where that water is coming from, and you need to have a very good relationship and a partnership with that primary supplier. And so there might be a number of those. You might also have, you also need bottles to put the water into. And so therefore you need a bottle supplier. That would be another key partner. After you've done that, then you can start to think about your cost structure. And so that's the one at the bottom left-hand side. So cost structures, again, don't get over, like, math and finance is often a scary world for lots of people, myself included, and don't get bogged down by that. It's just a matter of thinking, well, the bottle will be around about this much and the water will be around about this much, and to deliver it will be around about this much. And it's just ballpark figures of, like, I think all up it'll be, $2, whatever it might be, just so you can get an understanding and then take it over to the other side where you've got revenue streams. So if you've got a ballpark figure of costs, the next thing is to think, okay, well, if it's going to cost me $2, then my revenue streams, I need to figure out how to sell it for more than $2. Because if you sell it for less than $2, that's not a business. You're just running out of money slowly. So you've got to think, how can I sell it for $2.50 or $3 or $10 or whatever it might be? And where are you going to do that? What's your revenue stream? So that's the finance bit. The bits above that are the last things to touch. So next you go into customer relationships. And that's really thinking, who am I selling to and how am I going to manage that relationship? So there's really two broad categories in customer relationships. There's business to business and business to consumer. So business to business is your water supplier in this instance. So the primary water supplier is a business and they are selling to a business, your business. And so that is a B2B relationship. That's what it's talking to. Whereas a B2C relationship is business to customer. So that's where if you were selling directly to a customer, a consumer, then that would be a B2C business. So then you've got to start thinking, okay, well, I'm going to get bottled water for $2. I'm going to sell it for $3. Who am I selling it to? Am I selling it to anyone on the street? Am I selling it to local stores? Am I selling it to larger stores? Am I selling it to, water manufacturers? Who am I selling it to? And then how am I going to find and develop that relationship with them to make that a worthwhile business? And that's what channels is talking about. So how you actually communicate. So the channels is talking specifically about communication channels. So that could be, I'm going to find all my customers on Facebook and I'm going to sell them this bottled water on Facebook. Therefore, your channel would be Facebook and your customer would be people on Facebook. Just as a bad hype, don't start a water company. It's not a great idea, but it helps to show the example. So channels could be, you're going to directly approach them on the street, could be through church, could be through any other channel. It could be direct mail. There's lots and lots of different channels. So then you're starting to think about, how you communicate. And then customer segments is breaking those different customers down. So that could be, well, I'm not just going to sell water to one customer. I'm going to sell them to multiple different customers. So then you can start to segment those and say, okay, well, these people are buying my water because it's the best water in that area. And these people are buying my water not because it's the best, because there's another brand in that market, but they're buying my water because it's the cheapest in that market. And so then you can segment customer demand that you're fulfilling. So who are your customers? And the better you understand who your customers are, the more likely you are to succeed in all of this. The key to entrepreneurship is staying really close to your customers. Understand what their problem is, how you're solving it, and how to make that as efficient for everyone involved as possible. So that's a quick run through of the business model canvas. Are there any questions at this stage?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
We can make an idea through the business model canvas through this, what you're teaching now.
Yes, I'm not sure I'm following your question, but I think the answer is yes. You can create a business using this business model canvas and in this modules. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? So I'll share. I'll try and share through my computer and join the Zoom. Have you got the Notion page, the Entrepreneurship Project handbook in the chat by any chance?
Okay, we'll try to bring that up on the chat. Go ahead, Alex.
Sure. Okay. Well, once you've got that in front of you, it's very detailed. So it'll take a while for you to go through it. But what it is I've laid down the entire entrepreneurial process into 15 steps, and then I've gone through and filled out each of those 15 steps. So you can all access this link and work through it at your own pace. But there's lots of resources in there to help increase your likelihood of success along this journey. But really, each of those steps breaks things down that are from the business model canvas, but even into more granular detail to help you get through it. If you want specific detail around the business model canvas, module 4.3 is business modeling, and that goes through the business model canvas in even more detail and can help flesh that out for you. And then there's all sorts of stuff around how to price things and how to validate that your idea is actually good. One of the key lessons that I spend a lot of time teaching people is the difference between what people say and what people do, because you're all nice people. And so therefore, if I was going to launch a product and I said, how about, would you buy this water bottle for $5? Almost all of you would say, yes, I would buy this water bottle for $5. The reason being is because, one, you don't have to commit to anything. It's not like I'm saying, oh, give me $5 now. It's just saying, well, would you? And the answer is almost always yes, because people are nice and they want to tell you what you want to hear. But that's not a good way to start a business, because when you launch and suddenly you've invested all this money into water bottles, and then suddenly you go back to those people and say, okay, well, now I'm ready to sell you this water bottle for $5. Suddenly all your customers disappear. That's the most common thing that happens, and the most common reason that businesses never really get up off the ground is the difference between people who say they want to do something and people that actually do. And so there's all sorts of stuff to try and figure that out. The key part to understand that is problem interviews, module 2.4. And so that really goes through in depth about, how do you interview someone but without leading them to the conclusion that you want to go, or you want to actually figure out what's the truth. What would they actually buy, and try and understand it from their perspectives. So it's a very important skill. So the key bit that I would be suggesting for you to do is go and talk to who you think might be your customers in a very open-minded way, and really understand who they are and what problems they need solving, and then try and understand that problem deeper and deeper and deeper. You don't need to rush to build something. It's a lot of people rush to build the MVP or the app. And really, you can never waste time understanding your customers. The better you understand your customers, the better you'll be able to appreciate how to communicate with them, where to communicate with them, what pricing structure they require, and how to deliver that product. So they're all really important things that you can actually understand way before launching anything. So really get to know the customers that you're seeking to serve, and then serve them. I suppose the other thing that I wanted to touch on is, because I am in a university, I end up speaking quite a lot about what is entrepreneurship, and it's quite an important subject, because a lot of people have bad connotations around entrepreneurship, and I think that the true reality of what entrepreneurship is, it's like any tool. It's got two sides, and it can be used for great good or great evil. But for me, entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity beyond the resources under control, for the purpose of creating wealth for the individual and adding value to society. So all four of those components are absolutely essential, in my opinion. You have to be pursuing an opportunity, which means that it has to be a problem worth solving. Someone has to want to actually buy this thing for it to be an opportunity. It needs to be beyond the resources under control. So entrepreneurs are inherently willing to take some risk. Actually, entrepreneurs are very good at mitigating risk and taking as little risk as possible, but they do take risk. And so it's about understanding that I don't necessarily have all the money or the knowledge to actually do this venture, but you can click on what is entrepreneurship to follow along. You still need to then pursue that solution. And so you have to understand the opportunity pulls you towards, well, I don't yet have everything I need, but I need to go down this road. And it doesn't necessarily mean exhausting everything you've got, but really figuring it out as you go. So the path of entrepreneurship is walking through a fog. So the key is to just take one step at a time. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. Just take one step at a time and learn as you go, and be careful along the way. And the other part that's often overlooked is that entrepreneurship is inherently adding value to society. And that's because if many people have a problem and you're solving that problem in an efficient way, that is adding value to society. So entrepreneurs, more often than not, are the ones that are actually creating the culture that we all live in, because they're the ones that are building the better mousetraps that actually make the world the way it is. And so you can start your venture and just focus on making money for yourself, which is required because we all need to eat and pay rent. And that's an important component, but it shouldn't overshadow the importance of adding value to society. Because really the best businesses are the ones that solve a really important problem, and they do that by understanding the bigger picture, the bigger societal impact that they can have, and why they want to do that. Why do they want to solve and serve people? I think that's the heart of entrepreneurship is service. And so I think by inherently, I think Christians have a great advantage in entrepreneurship, because we know we're called to serve, and so we do that as much easier than others. And so I think it's that service mindset of thinking, how do I love this? How do I love my neighbor? What does my neighbor need? And how can I deliver? And how can I solve that problem for them and do it in a really sustainable, constructive way? So that's a quick overview and a touch on the resources that you have available as part of this program. I really hope that you find this stuff useful. That there's a lot in there. It took many months to build, but I've kind of created it as a treasure trove. So you can scratch into whatever topic you might find the most interesting, but there's lots of stuff underneath the surface there for you to kind of go into and explore. So if you have any questions at all, please let me know. But otherwise, I really hope you find some worthwhile problems to solve and figure out how to solve them in a profitable, sustainable way.
Hello. Hi,
How
Alex.
you going?
How would you use the business canvas model for a social project or maybe something like a social enterprise where it's more about the social and not so much the profits?
Yeah, I think the challenge is how do you sustainably do a social enterprise? Because if you want to solve a problem long term, then you need a fuel source. You need a long-term sustainable fuel source. So doing a social enterprise without thinking about the fuel source is only ever going to get you so far down the road. So I would be inviting you to think about, how are we going to fuel this venture so that it can solve these problems long term? Because really, business has a very good track record of solving problems in a very long-term way because there's an exchange going on. So is there some way that you can either add on a business function into the social enterprise, or is there a way to create that social change, that social good that you want to, while also having a business outcome? Because I think we all need to pay rent or mortgage and food. So therefore, we've got to take that into consideration. And so with social enterprises, if your staff or your volunteers, how are you going to make that a sustainable level of giving for them? Does that help?
Yeah, it does help. Maybe one more question. Alex, from your experience, could you help us, guide us on the process of interviewing our target audience, maybe getting their problem statement? What have you in your toolbox?
Yes, yeah, great. I would literally, my toolbox is all put down in that problem interviews module. So that'll be the bigger answer. But in terms of this, the quick answer, I think that the key part is curiosity. That's really the heart of problem interviews and interviews in general. So if you go into an interview thinking, I want to sell them this, then you're always going to be steering them towards what you want. Whereas if you go in there with a blank slate and you're just being curious about what does their life look like, what problems do they have, and how is that working, and you're just really examining things, suddenly the person that you're interviewing gets the strong sense that you actually understand them. You understand what their problems are, you understand their life, and therefore when you say, I think I can solve this bit, they listen because they know you understand the problem. And so really come at it with a blank slate and curiosity. That would be the key components.
Does anyone have any more questions? Please either raise your hands or unmute yourself.
Perhaps also, Cheyenne, they can put their questions into the chat box, and then even while the next speaker is speaking, I think Nigel is on the line. While you are coming out with your questions, I want to give you a quick walkthrough, everybody. So I'm going to be sharing my screen now on the Discord server that we have set up, which is a sort of a learning resource center, a hub for the various. So you should be able to see. I'm now going over to. Oh, by the way, just now this entrepreneurial handbook. It is inside it's inside a application called Notion. So you may be asked to upload that app, Notion, as well. We've put all of these links. Now, if you take a look at this is the Discord server, okay? And inside there, I've loaded up maybe 40 or 50 different learning capsules. This will be your survival kit for those of you who are just out of college and you're looking for jobs and you're looking for ideas, or you want to join the Shark Tank, you and your teams. You do have about a week to submit all of your ideas. But the first place to go is to hit on the picture of Jesus, and that'll get you into the lounge, okay? And then from there, you can see all the instructions that we're putting in. There is one particular capsule called community transformation. Oh, before that, let me show you. This is the capsule on music education. So for those of you in Singapore, I put in all the instructions to use. Like, for example, today we're doing an audio recording. While it's being recorded, you can learn how to use the equipment. Here, the audio equipment, all the mixers, the microphones, the lightings that you need if you are doing video. Let me also show you another one to introduce our next speaker, which is Nigel Cow. And I think Nigel is coming in the room, but let me just, this is the video that. We also have Durga Gurung. Okay, so there will be different opportunities for you. This is the mountain bike trail. And I think they have even winter sports, which they're developing as well. Oops, sorry, that's my that's my safe entry thing. Sorry, I lost that. Wow. Let's go skiing.
अनि चिपिँदा चाहिँ कस्तो मजा कतिको मजा आउँदो रहेछ
Okay, so Nigel, you just let me know what slides you want me to show, and then I can do it. Nigel's actually dialing in from his office. Nigel, are you there? Can you hear me? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, hi everybody. Just a minute, yeah.
Yeah, you're on. We can hear you perfectly. Go ahead. You're muted, Nigel, somehow. Just now was all right. You're still muted. Mm. Nigel, you're still muted. We can't hear you for some reason.
Hello.
Yeah, you're good. You're good now. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, hi everybody. Just dialing in from my office. Yeah, I was just in the middle of office meeting, so just trying to jump in between meetings. So yeah, so what should I share about today? Pastor Jerry, any questions you have for me?
Yeah, you're supposed to get married to a Nepali girl. What's the status now on your wedding plans?
Well, I thank God for extended extra time of singlehood. Yeah, so I can enjoy being single and doing the things that I love. So that was don't tell my girlfriend this, but yeah, it was quite good that I could have one more year really one more year of freedom that I could do things that yeah,
Be careful what you say. I think Durga is on the line. Durga, are you there? Are you reporting
Yes,
everything?
yes, I'm on the line.
Can
Yeah, I'm recording
can
everything.
can you switch on your video and let us see? You're dialing in from where, Durga? Which part of Nepal? Ah, there you are.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. I heard you had a accident. You broke your arm or broke your hand. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Thank you so much, Durga, for all of your photos and your pictures that we get an opportunity. He's coming in and out, I think, because of the signal. But okay, Nigel will be sharing his
I'm so
screen now.
sorry. Really bad.
okay. So yes, I have some slides. Let me share. Just a minute. These are okay. So basically, just let me give you a very short, just a short background of how I was involved in Nepal and and what made me do the things I did in Nepal. So actually, for myself, I'm not a very just a quick disclaimer. I never envisioned myself doing this because my parents are not businessmen. I didn't study business. I'm an engineer by training, a chemical engineer. And in my job field, I'm more of a programming guy who does analytics and optimization. So yeah, I don't really do businessy stuff. Even though now my role is more in my current company, I'm moving on towards more of a general management role. But anyway, yeah. So just an introduction of my NGO. It's actually called a Manaslu Foundation. It's basically what it is Manaslu is an area in Nepal where the epicenter of the earthquake took place, and that was in I think 2021 now, right? It's about 6 years ago, on the April 25th, 2015. So there was a big earthquake, and the epicenter happened to be in the Manaslu region. So when we build our schools, we call it Manaslu Foundation. Simple, right? Don't need to think so much. What do we call it? Just call it by the name of the area we are looking at. So yeah, how it started was actually, I was a mountain climber. So I was leading the Singapore University team to climb a 6,000-meter mountain. So what happened was, there's some nice views, of the mountain. Okay, just let me show you. You can see, right? Yeah, views of the mountain.
Yeah, it's the tent.
Yeah, and yeah. So what happened was actually I had a small accident, which I have to be evacuated by helicopter. So this is actually the video of me being carried onto the helicopter because I fell off a cliff. Yeah, so this was taken in about I think about 5,000 5,300 meters altitude. Yeah. So you can see, yeah. So it's quite nice, If you want to know how does it feel like, to see in a helicopter or how helicopter actually rescue someone on a mountain, this is a perfect video of it. Yeah. So I was inside the helicopter. Yeah. So that was in 2014 December. So 6 months later, there was a big earthquake, and then it was a huge earthquake. So I guess in Philippines you don't really get earthquakes, right? Mainly you are affected by typhoons, tsunamis. Yeah, but Nepal is a little bit different. Nepal has many. It runs through a few fault lines, so earthquakes. Yeah, their earthquakes are not so common. Like this one was a big earthquake. So so basically, the earthquake affected these the people of the earthquake epicenter is called Gokala, and basically the people in Gokala, they look something like this. Yeah. So Durga looks something like this also because Durga is from the district of Gorkha. Yeah, so mainly the people in Gorkha, they are more of Mongolian blood, so they actually look very similar to. They are just a bit darker than how a Chinese man would look like. Yeah, so for the people living in Gorkha, they don't really have very sharp nose. Their nose are more like Mongolian. Yeah, so yeah, so this was the picture taken, at one of the project sites that we were building. This is at about, I think, 3,200 meters altitude. Yeah, as you can see, this area has the population about 270,000, and there are about 5 casts within there. So, yep. So in December 14th, I had an accident. April 25th, 2015 was the earthquake. And then from there, so basically what happened was, the guys who saved my life actually came from the villages at the epicenter of the earthquake. So to me, they called me, they say, hey, Nigel, can you help us? At the time, I was a student in my university, year 3, with not much money in my bank account. So I remember I had about $20 in my bank account. So I was like, when they asked me, and I was like, can you help? I was like, oh, okay, let me see what I can do. But definitely because this guy saved my life, right? So I will try my best lah to help them. So unfortunately, one of the guides who actually saved my life, he died in the earthquake. He was leading a trekking group, and then there was an avalanche, and then he was blown off the cliff, and then he hit a rock, and then he died. Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of yeah. So you can see, this is actually what happens in a traditional funeral, and how they actually cremate a dead person. Okay, so these are a few photos of we did a few. The first time I went back was during in May 2015, which was 1 week or 2 weeks after the earthquake, and it happened to be when everybody was actually fleeing the epicenter. I was a young guy, didn't really care about risk. So I just raised some money, my friends, schoolmates, church friends, and then we went in. And basically, what they needed things like tarpaulin as well as water piping so that they could channel the new water pipes to a new temporary. Their village were all destroyed, so they have to move to a temporary settlement, and then they have to restart their lives over there. Yeah, so basically that was what happened, and then over time we also we raised some funds, and then we also supplied around, I think, 30,000 kilograms of rice to these affected villages. Yeah, so you can see, this is how we actually distributed the rice, rice, lentil, corn, salt, oil. Yeah, so basic necessities lah. Yeah, so that we also brought in things like electronic mosquito repellent, solar panels, so that they could charge their own personal devices, medication, to these affected villages. So what happened was, how I think today's topic is on entrepreneurship, right? So yeah, just let me focus more on how did I actually start this NGO. So during one of my trips back to the villages, they I sat down with, I was there, I sat down with the village elders and the local village politicians, and then they were asking me, hey, thanks for all the hard work you have been doing, thanks for supplying rice, all our basic necessities, we have one request, they said. And then they asked me, hey, our homes, everything is all destroyed. Well, but our schools also destroyed. But and then the village elders and the politicians, the local politicians in the municipality level, they were asking me, hey, can you help us build a school? So at the point of time, I was like, um, how much money do I have in my bank account? Probably about less than $100 US. And you probably know, right? Building a school is you need a lot more money than $100 US. You are probably looking at a few $100,000 US. So I didn't want to reject them immediately. I just told them, like every good salesman, you don't reject your customer. You just tell them, yeah, okay, I try my best. So that was the attitude I have, and I told them, okay, let me try my best. So what happened was, in the trip, that was when I actually met Durga, and Durga is on the call. What happened was that, I wanted to give out Christian tract books, you have these small pamphlets, right, where they are missionary tracts. So as I was visiting, there were 3 villages that I wanted to visit that was at the epicenter, right? You see over here, one is at Kolabesi, Karauja, Kanigao. So basically what happens, right, is you have to take a bus, okay, all the way to, you look at the green line, you take a bus all the way uh, to over here at this Balaju bus park, and then you got to walk, a few days, about a few days, I think, about two days, you got to walk to this place called La Prague, and then that's where I met Durga. So what happened was, I have the Christian tract books, and then I was like, okay, if I can't really help you the schools, let me at least try to distribute this tract book. So I have 2 versions. I have the Nepali versions. I also have the English version. So what happened was, when I reached the village over here, somehow I couldn't find the English tract books. I couldn't find the Nepali tract books. I only could find the English ones, right? So I was like, oh my goodness, I it's the English tract books is like you give an English Bible to someone who doesn't understand English. It's useless, right? So to me, I was a bit frustrated, and then I made a very half-hearted prayer. I told God, this is I walked so many days, carry so much weight, and then I forgot to bring the Nepali tract books. So I told God, okay lah, God, you send someone who probably be a Christian, speaks English, and also wants to be a missionary, to preach the gospel to their own their own people in their own villages there. So I said the prayer. I walked to the 3 villages where I was doing the relief work. So I was distributing rice and orders, right, mainly to these 3 villages, which were much further in. One is Kolabesi, Karauja, another one is Kanigao, and they are all above 3,000 meters in altitude. So what happened was, I walked over 7 days, and then at these 3 villages, the elders were telling me, oh, come build a school for us, build a school, please build a school. And I was like, oh, okay, I try my best. No promises, try my best. But at the back of my mind, I know it was probably not something that I could afford. I mean, it's going to cost you $1 million. Who's going to give you the kind of money, right? So now I just go there, say some pleasant words, and then just walk back to this place. And that's when I actually met Durga. So actually, Durga is the relative of 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 the guy who died. So you remember this guy, right? He was the guy who saved me. And then this is his wife, right? Durga, you are a relative of this woman, right? Young Kumari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
So
like
what happened was,
sister-in-law.
yeah. So what happened was, I was staying at the widow's house at the village, and then I remember it was at night, and what happened was, when I was just eating dinner, and I was just lamenting to God, saying that, how come you make me carry the Christian tracts that are so useless, because I can't find the Nepali tracts, right? So I had a prayer that I told you about, which I didn't really believe because you must understand that in these villages, no one speaks English. I'm probably the best English speaker over there, right? So lo and behold, as I was eating dinner in the late at night, three guys walk in, and that's when I met Durga. And when Durga asked, and Durga he spoke very well. I mean, his English, he speaks better English than I do, right? So I was so surprised when he told me that he could speak English. And then I asked Durga, hey Durga, well, you speak English, wow, very good. How come you speak English? And then Durga was saying that, oh, because, um, you know, his, okay, so Durga, why don't you tell the group over here, um, how come you spoke very good English when I first met you?
Okay. Thank you so much for giving me this time. I was raised in an orphanage for more than 15 years. It's a Christian organization where they help me for my education and all. So from that organization, I was able to speak. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so the conversation came about like this. So I didn't, at the point of time when, I had a prayer, must speak English, must be Christian, because sometimes Christian, they don't want to be missionary, right? Because most missionaries, sometimes even let's say if I'm in the parliament, if I want to be a missionary, if I would think about family, I wouldn't want to be a missionary in the village. I would probably want to be a missionary in the USA, in Japan, because maybe I get paid higher. So, these are the practicalities of life, right? So at the point of time, I was thinking, well, this prayer is quite hard to fulfill. But la mind, just pray. Even if it doesn't get answered, no harm, right? Frivolous prayer. Uh, so I asked Durga. Durga said, "Oh, I stay in an orphanage. My parents were not so well to do. When my brothers were born, you have a few brothers. When his siblings were born, they sent him to the orphanage. And the orphanage was run by Americans, so he speak very good English. So then I asked him, "Oh, very good, you speak English. So what are you studying?" So I asked Durga what he was studying. So Durga told me that he was studying business and finance. Right? Business and finance, right, Durga? Yeah, in the university. So I told him, oh, I remember I told him this, wow, Durga, very good. So does it mean that because you're staying in the orphanage, study business and finance, you want to do your own business and become rich so they can help your parents? Then Durga, remember what you said? Oh, no, 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 I want to be a missionary. Then I remember, oh, okay. My prayer, right? English, okay, very good English speaker. Want to be missionary. Then my mind, I thought again, oh, this guy want to be missionary. Oh, what kind of missionary? Because Nepal mainly is Buddhism and Hinduism, right? So in my mind, I was thinking, maybe this fellow wants to be a Buddhist or Hindu missionary, right? So I asked Durga, hey, Durga, what kind of missionary you want to do? Then Durga said he wants to be a Christian missionary. So the story was quite simple. So basically, the summary of story is his family sent him to the orphanage. The orphanage was run by Christian missionaries. That's where he found God. Yeah. So I said, oh, okay, very good. Prayer answered. Then I just took out all the English tracks. I dumped it to him, and then I don't know what he do with it. Yeah. So that was the story of how I met Durga. So basically, this was the story of how, even I'm a man of very little faith. Wow, such a frivolous prayer. Wow, God sent the girl, and it was so coincidental that actually, we knew each other through the unfortunate demise of his uncle. So that's how I met Durga, and that was actually how and how Durga actually played a huge role in when I set up my NGO. Okay, so fast forward, how did I set up my NGO, right? Or this entrepreneurship journey. So for myself, I never have the dreams of, as I said, starting a business or starting an NGO, running a multi-million, no, not multi, a $1 million project. I never have that kind of ideals because I grew up in astute poverty. My dad is just an engineer, my mom's an accounts assistant. So we are just middle class or lower middle class people, right? So we don't really have very big dreams. Yeah. So what happened was I came back to Singapore, and when I was in Kathmandu, and Kathmandu is the capital of Nepal, and I was just looking at all the relief work that was happening. So I think the guys in Philippines, you'll probably experience this also. Whenever there's a typhoon, the overseas relief work actually mainly focuses in the cities, right? Yeah, where probably in Manila, you will see a lot of foreigners, yeah, sending their military and everything. But actually, they don't do anything much, right? So same thing. When I was in Kathmandu, I saw the Singapore Army, I saw Doctors Without Borders, I saw UNICEF, I saw World Vision, I saw so many NGOs. But what were they doing? They were simply, in the city, in Kathmandu, taking pictures, having a good time. It was more of an act of self-glorification, Basically, I try to reach out to a few NGOs. I say, hey, I'm actually at the epicenter. No one is helping them. The routes to get there is so difficult. Even for myself, one of my volunteers fell off the cliff. So, do you want to help them? And some NGOs said, oh, okay, we will help, no problem, let us know where it is. And then as we negotiated, these big international organizations, they found out that actually it is not so straightforward. Why? Can you see? They could send relief supplies over here, but then you have to use porters. Can you see this? You have to use porters to transport all the goods. Can you see this diagram? So basically, I told the international organizations, okay, you got to drive a truck, put all the trucks here, and then put it into the smaller 4x4 vehicle, and then from there we need to get porters as well as donkeys to transport, the relief that you are going to supply. So when the big international organizations heard this, they were like, oh no, it's too troublesome for me. Why don't I just work in a city? I have 100 US dollars of food. I just drive a truck, drive to a city and just distribute it in my accounts book. Done. Right. So I was very unhappy because what I was witnessing in the cities was basically countries were, even Singapore itself, the Singapore Army wasn't doing anything, right? They were just in a city taking pictures. The protocols didn't allow them to go to the places that really needed help. So, that was when I decided to reach out to Red Cross Singapore. And I sent them quite a nasty. Actually, what happened was I was on Facebook Messenger and I sent them a very nasty message. I told Red Cross, what kind of nonsense are you doing? How come the people who need help most, you're not helping them? But the places that I'm working at, no one is interested in helping. I told Red Cross, aren't you ashamed of yourself? And lo and behold, no one replied my message, right? Because everybody wants to be praised, right? Nobody wants to be criticized, especially Red Cross is a big organization. Yeah, Red Cross is a big organization, and it's an international organization. And then you have some fella who writes a Facebook message to tell them that I'm very unhappy. You guys are just doing this to take pictures, look nice, and look like heroes, but you're just not helping the people there. So that was actually what happened. So they didn't reply my message, after 2 weeks. And then I dropped them the next message. I said, hey, I'm still waiting for a reply. If you don't reply me within the next 2 days, on the third day, I will walk into your office and then I will have a meeting with you. And I'll demand someone to answer my question. So that was what I messaged them. And surprisingly, they actually responded to me, and they told me, oh, okay, why don't we arrange a meeting and see what we can help you for? So I arranged a meeting with the Red Cross CEO, and I told Red Cross, hey, I showed them what I was doing in the same pictures I show you. We were delivering rice, we're helping all this on our own personal accord. So I told Red Cross, I have the manpower, we are doing all this logistics. It's very easy for us, but one thing we don't have, I don't have money. So I told the Red Cross, the villagers, what do they need? They want education. They want to rebuild the school so that the kids can go back to school. So the Red Cross CEO, at the point I think I was 25 years old, and the Red Cross CEO was telling me, he was quite skeptical. He was telling me, show me what kind of community work have you done in the past. I said, no, I don't have. I'm too busy in my school. Chemical engineering is too difficult. It's like being a doctor. So I think by God's favor, the Red Cross CEO decided to trust me, and he told me, okay, I give you a few days, come up with a plan. So that's where I went back and worked in the details. So, at a point of time, I was a student, very naive, no business sense. I thought, be the school very simple, You look at how some of the school community projects, building a toilet, just go there, lay a few bricks, overseas mission, lay a few bricks, toilet is there, done. Right? But actually not so straightforward. And I'll share with you exactly, this entrepreneurship journey of finding the way, of how I actually found my way successfully build the schools. So the first thing I had to ask myself, I need $1 million, right? I thought that it would be so easy. Red Cross send money to my bank account, I build it on my own. Then I realized, no, not so straightforward, because all these big international organizations, they are actually audited, right? And they have certain protocols and policies to follow. So Red Cross told me, oh, we can't send to personal bank accounts. We only can liaise with project partners who are organizations. So now and the organization must be registered in Nepal. So what happened was that um, I had a few choices, right? One choice was to work with a local organization. But as Durga can tell you that in Nepal, there's a lot of corruption, right? Everyone, almost every businessman is a corrupted businessman. Yeah. They're always thinking of how can I, if I have a project, how do I put money in my own pocket, right, Durga?
Yes, that's definitely.
Yeah. So there's a lot of corruption, right, in Nepal. So I thought to myself, if I were to work with a local organization, probably I cannot get my project done, probably 60% of money goes into someone else's pocket. So I made a decision. I said, hey, I told my founding I told a few friends who were the mountain guides who saved me, and who were the ones who were distributing the supplies. I told them, hey, why don't we set up our own NGO? We start our own. We do it ourselves, lah. Uh, so that was the start of many nightmares and many problems. Yeah. So my piece of advice is, if you want to help someone and you have the money and you don't need an organization, it's better to do it yourself. Because when you have an organization, you are bounded by international laws, you're bounded by local laws. You have to do your audit once a year, and everything has to be audited. And basically, anything that goes wrong, you can go to jail for it. Yeah. So my recommendation is, unless you need to start an organization, it's always better to. There are many restrictions when you're actually running an NGO. So as you can see over here, we started our NGO, and then we signed a MOU or Memorandum of Understanding with the Red Cross Singapore to rebuild 3 schools and 1 hospital in the epicenter. So you can see these are some of the images of destruction. Can you see the photos here? So this is not snow. This is what you're looking at, is all the rubble and all the rocks that actually covered a few meters in height. So you can see all the trees. The whole tree stump is missing because this is the aftermath of the earthquake. Take a look at this. Yeah, so this is actually where I was working at. And you can see almost everything was destroyed. Yeah. But we were not getting any help. So I told Red Cross, I had to negotiate with Red Cross. I told Red Cross, I know what you want. Red Cross would like to have to take credit, right? Oh, I'm Red Cross. I've helped to build schools in the epicenter. I said, okay, fine. You want the fame, I'll give it to you. But what I want is, I just want to help the people there. So, you have to, as a social entrepreneur, you have to understand what the different stakeholder wants. Probably Red Cross, international organizations, they want the, what do you call it? They want to be able to show off, right? That, oh, I've done such a great deal. So I said, okay, I can help you achieve that, but help me provide the funds and I'll do the building. So you can see that we actually started, trying to get the designs, trying to understand where we want to rebuild the schools, and this was part of the construction journey. So The construction journey wasn't very easy lah. I think one of the main challenges that I wanted to show was that being in an organization, even if let's say it was not very easy, especially on the financial part of things. So what happened was Red Cross would be sending money. Let's say our project was about 1 million Singapore dollars, and Red Cross would send in tranches. So they will send in batches. Every batch they will send maybe 200,000 Singapore dollars to our organization bank account in Nepal. But do you know that in Nepal, when money is sent to my bank account, I cannot, my funds are locked in the bank account. So I will have to go to the Social Welfare Council, which is a ministry in Nepal. Basically, it's a Ministry of Social Community Works and Social Welfare, and I have to get a written letter by the minister to approve for me to draw out certain funds from the bank account so that I can use for my project. So I remember very distinctly there was one meeting with one of the ministers in the social welfare committee. Basically, to keep a story short, they wanted me to bribe them. So basically, every time I have money that comes in, basically $1 million, they wanted about $200,000. They call it scholarship money for the poor. But I knew that it was bribed, right? So what happened was, I told my guys, hey, we started an organization, and my founding principle was no corruption. We will not put a single cent into the pockets of ministers, because every single cent has to be for the community. So that was I think was a step of faith where I basically, what happened was I tore up the contract in front of the minister's face. I told the minister, if you want to play this game, no problem. Yeah. Sometimes in business, you can't always be the nice guy. Sometimes you have to, there are times you'll be nice, there are times you have to be tough and keep to your stand. So basically what happened was, the poor minister, he's quite a big shot. I took the piece of paper, I tore it out in front of his face. I said, okay, project over. I would send all the money back to Singapore, we'll cancel the project. And basically I was threatening the minister. I say, I'm not going to give you a single cent of corruption money, of bribes in your pocket. This is, at the end of the day, I told the minister, these 3 schools I'm rebuilding is a government school. So I'm helping your government, to build your schools using my money, which is Singapore's money. And basically I told him, if you are not happy, I could always send the money back. So there were many times, it was not, the pictures look very nice, but the story behind the pictures, there were times there are really tough times. And sometimes you will have to, it's about dealing with politicians. And over the years of dealing with these politicians, I realized that sometimes you have to be smart, and you have to be a tough negotiator, because politicians, they always have a hidden agenda. And most of the time, most politicians are self-serving. So I had to play, I had to stand by my principles and say, I'm not going to give you a single cent, but if you want to do the project, I will only do it the right way. So, after a while, they relented, and then I think they kind of realized that, hey, this Nigel guy he's a no-nonsense guy. You better not play with him, because you better take his threats seriously, because when he says no, no means no. He's not going to change. He's not going to make a no yes. When Nigel says yes, yes means yes, no means no. So yeah, I thank God that 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 by me standing firm, that it actually that it actually worked quite well. Yeah. So okay, so basically, you can let me just share with you quickly on the construction process. So we had to get approval from Ministry of Education to take the building. We had to get our building plans done, because of the earthquake, and we had to make sure that it was okay. So yeah, you can see that this was some of the construction process, and everything was very manual. We have to do very in detailed planning, and basically we have no equipment. Everything was manual labor, and everything had to be done according to plan. So we had to do all these designs, and you can see, the final look of the buildings, right, looks something like this. Let me open. Yeah, so you can see, this is the end state of our construction process. Yeah. So the skills now they look like this. Yeah, this is the hospital. These are students who are at the school. Yeah. So I think this concludes my sharing of the journey of how actually I started this organization, and I think Pastor Jerry has also shared what are the plans for the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Nigel. And for our listeners, thank you for your patience. And if you would like to have more information, we've put in the chat box the Discord server link. And this is under the Community Transformation Learning Capsule. So there's a whole bunch of learnings that you can be equipped with. It's sort of a toolkit or a survival kit if you're freshly out of school and you want to see examples. The reason why we have featured Nigel is so that you can have a flesh and blood example. And may I also commend Nigel that this is not the end. He is going further to help these communities. First of all, he's marrying one of the the Nepali girls he prayed a wife in to the equation. But also he's setting up Wi-Fi towers. And as you saw right at the beginning, he has very forward thinking. It's not just a one-time mercy relief project. He's established biking trails. He wants to do the skiing thing, bungee jumping. He wants to stir up the economy. Obviously, he has to probably stay down there or whatever after he gets married. But he's wanting to get the government to sponsor Wi-Fi towers, and he's bringing in this gadget called Engezo, which is really a school in a tablet. So perhaps at our next meeting, we can have Nigel to come back and share the part 2 of what are the follow-up projects that he's doing, and he's still raising money. I think he's already raised. He's got a pledge of 10,000 from somebody who's gonna as we move towards the next level there. So it's an ongoing thing, and it's really something. Entrepreneurship is really, as we said in Psalms 37 verse 3, dwelling in the land and cultivating or growing faithfulness. Now, the next speaker that we have in our final speaker for today is Dr. David Ang, and he is developing community entrepreneurs, and he is the one who taught me the simple definition of doing good and doing it sustainably. David, I've already put all your credentials in the flyer. Go ahead and share what you have on your heart to give some tips and to the young people. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Jerry. So before I start, I really thank Alex and Nigel. I really enjoy your sharing. I wish you could have gone on. I think, however, we want to just also bring some of these concepts to what it means by nuts and bolts. So just supporting this whole entire impetus with so much thoughts and so much sharing. But before that, perhaps we can just watch a short video just to give an overall snapshot of what entrepreneurship means to me. So over to you.
When you create something that nobody has created before, will bring an improvement or enhancement to mankind. From having no aeroplanes to now having aeroplanes to fly from one country to another, from riding on a horse to right now being able to go to places in a car. These are all birthed from people who's got ideas on how to make the world a better place. And that really is the overarching thinking, philosophy of entrepreneurship. Before I tell what I do, I tell what I believe in and who I am. I'm a person who really believes that the next generation, the next world will be will be created by people with ideas. Some of us, some of you, have certain discontentment or certain dissatisfaction or certain thoughts about how to do things in a new way or even doing some new things. And these are sitting in you, could be a buggeration, could be a passion, or could be a conviction. And my heart is to really help to see how we can bring these ideas or these new solutions into something that can be implementable, can bring it to fruition and make it something that can be used for the betterment of mankind. If let's say your aspiration is mainly to start a business, there are very specific and very streamlined and tailored things, tailored content in courses that you can take. And thus, a more efficient and a shorter way to understand the basic mechanics of starting a business may not necessarily be attending a business course in terms of getting a business degree. First, you need to have a plan. You need to know who you're selling to. You need to know how you're selling. You need to know what you're selling. And you also need to know how to manufacture or prepare the product or the service that you're selling, and at the right cost. And thereafter, you need to have a cash flow projection. A business lives and dies on its cash flow. You can have huge profit, you can have huge revenue, but if you don't have cash flow, basically the business will die. I think fundamentally, philosophically, at any business, it must be something that you really believe in. We will do it with all our heart and mind, our soul, because we believe that it could bring a value, it could bring a blessing to the people that we are serving. And if you have that in your mind, that goes beyond, the motivating factor goes beyond whether it makes you money or not. The motivating factor comes from the fact that you are bringing a blessing which makes other people's life better. So I think having a strong belief, having a strong conviction is important. Ideas don't come to everybody every day. When you have an idea, it is a precious moment. Keep it, steward it, ferment it, let it grow, and let it become something real, a real belief that you carry in your heart. Don't waste a good idea, don't waste a good belief. That's number one. Number two, you want to see how you can turn the idea into reality. And there are people, there are causes that you can go to make that happen.
Thank you for the video. And I think the last slide really says it all. The way to want to foresee a future is to create it. And I think today, even as we look back 10, 15 years ago, the world has so many more new things. The world has so many more new inventions. I remember a time when I was just maybe 15 years ago, I was just traveling from the airport to the hotel, landed in a new country. And I said, how I wish I can get this email out to this person. And at that time, it was not possible. I mean, I can kind of tell you how old I am. But right now, you can get an email, a message out anytime. And how did that happen? That happened because someone had an idea. Someone wanted to put a whole room of supercomputing capabilities into the palm of your hand. And that kind of notion applies to many, many things we have in our life today. And the life that we have, the earth that we live, continue to improve because people put their ideas into operation and make it a reality. And the future is for us to create out of our new ideas. And, things will change, things will evolve. I think the question is, do you want to be part of it? Do you want to be part of a generation that can cause positive change to your nation, to your country, and to your people, to your community, by putting your ideas into practice? Some of your ideas may not be successful. But what if those that are successful? It will truly make a difference, perhaps not maybe in your generation, but in the generation to come. And then I think that's how one generation gets better than another. how the world improved from one generation to another. So this is what entrepreneurship is about. Entrepreneurship, the word is about entrepreneurship. The word is made of entrepreneur. Even if you step into a class, one day you decided to teach out from a PowerPoint slide compared to just battering off by drawing on the board. This is an entrepreneur idea. Something new you do to enhance what we are currently doing. So entrepreneurship is something that you see every day, every moment, improving the things that you do now in the future better than how it was done in the past. So, so I do not know how many of you are excited after listening to Alex and Nigel. How many of you want to jump in and to be an entrepreneur? Just maybe show me by your Zoom icon. You have already ideas burning. You know, you want to jump in and take a shot and take a shot at entrepreneurship because you're already seeing some brilliance, some spots of hope, some spots of brilliance out there. Wonderful. Any more? Because you're not, you're sitting there and just saying, I'm not content with what I'm seeing here. I just want to take a shot. And I think there's many unearthed, unburied ideas within all of you. And putting all your ideas, putting them into fruition, implementing them will create a better world for your community, for your nation, and for the people around you. So that's what excites me about entrepreneurship, because this world are really going to be improved by entrepreneurs. So just some background. For most part of my life, I have been running business. A large part of my life I was managing a multinational company, a water company that has even businesses and water plants in Philippines. So in some parts I'm quite familiar. I'm familiar with Bonifacio, Clark, as well as Manila, of course. Thereafter, I've gone into running my family business. It is a family business set up by my dad, and I kind of assisted him. Then thereafter, in the most current stage of my life, I run my own business, but also with an impetus of trying to help community entrepreneurs build and grow their business. Because I believe that the government is not going to solve all our problems. And I can speak this for Singapore and the countries around us. Solutions and issues of the community will need to be solved by the people living in the community. That is you and me. And even as you have the solutions, the heart to want to solve these problems, you'll be given ideas. And what Nigel has said, God has given him this brilliant heart and brilliant idea to deal with a certain problems. And there comes an entrepreneurship effort. Today, are you happy with what you're seeing around you? Are you seeing things which can be better done? Are you seeing children, maybe, who needs a better education? Children who are able to compete with the region, compete in the world? So are they getting the right kind of education to put them on a proper footing so that they can compete and give your community and your nation a good chance of being world beaters? Are you happy with the livelihood of your people around you? Can they be producing more things? Can they be selling more things to your neighboring countries? So these are all the possibilities that having an entrepreneurship mindset have. And the important thing, the key is don't predict the future. Create the future that you want to have happen. And that's what entrepreneurship is about. So you have heard from Alex, you have heard from Nigel. Now, Pastor Jerry has asked me to take you through the nuts and bolts of what is it, or how is it like to be an entrepreneur? Or at least the first step of submitting, thinking it through and submitting your plan for the competition that's to come. So for that, I'm just going to show you some slides. I'm going to just share screen. So you see this slide. So putting it simply, an entrepreneurial plan need to answer a few questions. So right at the beginning, where do we start with? You got to start with, what is the problem? What is the problem? I mean, you need to know what are you trying to solve. What is your problem statement? Because until we are able to identify what is the problem, we are going to not have a clear solution. So look around you, look around your community, your neighborhood, your friends, your world, the world that you are in. You got to ask yourself, what is the problem here? And sometimes maybe a problem is not so apparent because you're so used to it. Then in that case, maybe you can also look at does my neighboring community have that I don't have? What is the problem that I'm facing which my neighboring community don't face? And every problem have a solution. Every problem has a solution. Now, the other way to look at it is that what is a new thing that I can have? What is a new thing that I can have? Like, for example, the Wright brothers could never, before their time, they can never imagine people flying through the air. But eventually, they put their head, maybe we can fly through the air. And recently, over just 2 days, Richard Branson, a businessman from UK, decided to say, maybe we can have excursion in the space. He took his first flight, and that is something new. He was not content on just having tourism on the planet Earth. So looking at it, what is the problem and what is the new thing that you wish, maybe first for your community or even for your family or for your neighborhood? Let's start with that right at the beginning. And if you can articulate this really well, then I think you are on the beginning of an entrepreneurship journey. I set up an academy called Academy for Community Entrepreneurs because I believe that many of us are carrying a certain belief, a belief that will make mankind better, that will make lives better. And the question is how to turn this belief into a blessing. So for the problem that you have identified, for the new thing that you believe in, eventually it will, when you have a entrepreneurship roadmap, it will turn into a blessing. And it'll be exciting when you see how what you believe in can benefit, can bless people in your family, in your community, and in your neighborhood, or even in your country. So start with that. Start with what do you really want to see different change in your community? So what is the problem? Next, you got to think very, very roughly even. What is the solution? As I pointed out, as in the case of Niger, he says children are not getting education, so they need a classroom, they need teachers, they need classroom materials. So those are solutions. Whether you can achieve it at this stage or not, it doesn't matter. But you have envisaged a certain future, you have envisaged a certain destiny, you have envisaged something that will happen down the road that will solve a certain problem. Envisage it, imagine the best of what it can be. Even be lofty about your ambition. We'll see how it can be done. But be lofty about ambition, be far-fetched, stretch your imagination to think about the best solution for the problem that you face. Then you think about how you want to go about doing that. So again, taking the case of Niger, getting $1 million, getting hands and legs to come and plow the land, getting some partners to help. And as daunting as the solution was at the beginning, it is actually happening. So no solution is too difficult when you put your heart and mind to it. While it's going to be an obvious journey, it can be done. And look at and imagine and stretch your imagination to the peak, because when you think about the number of people you're going to bless, the number of lives that's going to be better, the number of families that's going to be better out of it, you will tell yourself it is worth the effort. It may be obvious, maybe a tiresome, maybe a difficult task, but just think about the amount of blessings that it can bring to people around you. You will keep your journey on. So you need to think about the fruits. At the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey, you need to envisage, you need to crystal ball into the immense possibility of what blessings your idea can bring. you have to stretch your mind, because at the end of the day, that is one thing that will inspire you. That's the thing that you dream about day and night when you're slogging through, when you're working so hard, when you are working tirelessly, and maybe sometimes thanklessly. That is one thing that will pull you. Simply put, that's what we call the vision. So what the immensity of the blessing is so important to keep in mind. Because a life of entrepreneurship, no one is going to just help you to fulfill your vision, because you are going to be the one driving the vision. But there must be something that is driving you. That is when you think about how much you will bless people around you. And so what is that one thing? What is that one thing that will keep you going? What is that one thing that you will come out with? So right now, get cracking and think about when you have that solution or a rough idea of that solution, how to make it. Today, maybe you could be facing issues with water that is not potable. Are you able to work with some engineering companies, or do you have contacts to some water companies? How to make it? That means think about the entire manufacturing process, or if it's to purchase, the procurement process, how much you need, what are the contacts that you have. Think deep into it. Then how to get it delivered. And this is one thing which maybe sometimes we don't quite put into our game plan, because there could be possible tangible solutions, but it is the logistic transference, the logistic delivery of this solution that is also something which is daunting. The recent COVID vaccination has proven to us that, well, we have those vaccination manufactured in America, in Europe, but the whole transportation regime is quite different. It's got to be kept in really a very specific low temperature environment. And you need to have there are only certain transportation hub in the world that can handle that. And actually, that's the issue of why the supplies are not coming in as quick as they should, or as quick as the government wanted, because the logistic issues was not considered fully at the beginning, because they can't envisage it, of course, but can currently refine it. So logistics is important. If you want to say, I want to plant a fruit in my backyard, how do you get those seeds, those materials, and how do you get them, bring them into the on-site? So my point is that the manufacturing preparation process is one, but the logistics supply chain consideration is quite another, and it needs to be considered in totality. The next thing to get cracking on is, how do you get your resources? And after getting the resources, what is a system to put together? Now, system is really about how to put the different processes into a unified way which they can harm with each other. So you have different processes to do different parts of the manufacturing. We got a couple of yellow lines on the screen, but eventually these processes need to hang together to become a system. Okay, so you need to think a little bit more organized here, that how you can put everything together and let them sing as one synchronized song. Of course, last but not least, we need to put a costing to them. So as far as costing is concerned, is remember to know that besides what we call is the operational costs, we also need to identify the capital costs. So capital costs are things that are like machinery, the upfront starting costs, which you need to invest upfront. Most of the time, it's like one shot. And the operational costs are costs that you incur on a day-to-day basis on the as you increase the volume of production. So all that need to be considered comprehensively. That is one. Number two will be the timing of the incurrence of those costs. Say, for example, you need to, say, rent a factory. You need to pay deposit for your factory. So those costs will come in right at the beginning, even before the first goods arrive, because you need to be having the tendency of those production floor. So knowing your costs, operational costs, and capital costs, what is called as OPEX and CAPEX, and the timing of it, especially at the timing where it needs to be paid. So I will talk a little bit about cash flow, because cost is one thing, cash flow is another. Although they are related, they are not one and the same. So understanding your cost structure, your cost involvement is extremely important, because as alluded in my video, business can die and live, and even can thrive on how they're cash flowing within their business. Now, after sorting those things out, you got to think, how scalable is a system? Meaning that today, if I can produce 10,000 units of this, how easy is it for me to produce another 5,000? How easy is it for me to produce another 20,000? It needs to have a certain level of scalability. Why? Because a business needs to grow. And why a business needs to grow? A business that doesn't grow will die. It is a concept of, it is the irony of status quo. Business don't stay status quo unless it's forced by, unless business itself shouldn't aim for status quo. That's what I mean. If you aim for status quo, you will only die, because having a status quo operational mentality will only mean that you are slowing down, and complacency will step in. So a default mindset of any entrepreneur is, how can I keep growing? How can I keep growing? And thus, to keep growing, you need to keep increasing your production. If you want to increase your production, your system that you have in place needs to be able to scale up. And when your system is able to scale up, your process will also scale up. So you may not have the system currently to scale up, to increase its volume of production, but you need to think about it. You cannot build a system for only a certain fixed amount of production, because the irony of status quo is that you only go down. So how to think about that? Okay. So I move on to the next slide, which is it. Sorry. So at the end, you have identified a need, you have identified a solution. Then now you got to think about, who are the people that will buy the solution? Who will buy from you? Who are your target audience? Who are your customers? Who are the people that will need this solution? Who are people that need this solution? And when you identify that, how much will they buy from you? Now then it talks about pricing. Pricing, basically, there are two ways to price your product. Number one is you accumulate, you consolidate and have an idea of what your cost is, and you do a certain markup, then that is your profit. Or you estimate from the market, based on how useful or how attractive your product is, how much will people buy from you. Now, so I paint the case of some of our branded goods, right? I mean, the cost to produce a branded good is not so much different from the cost to produce a non-branded goods. But why are people willing to pay so much more for a branded good? Is because of the perceived value they have. So you need to know how, beyond just how much you need to recover your cost and pay yourself a profit, you need to think about also, what will it fetch in the market? So how much will people buy from you at? What is the price point? And beyond that, will people come back to you for a repeated purchase? And that's important to know. And that goes into the whole concept of customer service, buying them at the right price. And the solutions has a sense of usefulness to them. Their life is better off with that solution. They are benefiting from it. And they find that they will come back again to buy from you. So the question to ask, will they come back to repeat their purchase? And this is an honest question, because it's a very important question for you to answer, because it will help you to get an idea of how good your price, how reasonable your price point is, and how will your business develop. Because chances is that when they are willing to come back and repeat their purchase, chances is that they will tell someone else about it. And then you will gain a new marketing channel, which is by the word of mouth. So you have to understand your community, you have to understand your consumers, you have to understand your buyers. Will they come back again? Should they buy from you the first time? So beyond selling to your current pool of buyers, how do you make known your product or what you sell to potential buyers, people who at the beginning didn't think about buying from you? So for example, right, if some of you may buy insurance, people, there are some who believe in insurance, but there are some who don't believe in insurance. So how you make known your product to people who do not know about it? In life, there are four keys here. People who know what they know. People who know what they do not know. People who do not know what they do not know. And people who do not know what they know. The key is many people do not know what they do not know. Okay, maybe we take a bit of time to digest that. So when we suppose, let's say if you drive a car or ride a bicycle, when you turn the corner, you do not know what is ahead around the corner. I think there are many people who do not know what they do not know. And there are people whom your product are very good and applicable to, they do not know your product. How do you make them know? And this is really about how to unearth the latent demand out there in the market. So you got to think about how do you make potential buyers know of your product, and also for them having a nominal knowledge of your product. Do they like the price? And then how do you convince them to sell to them, and how you convince them to come back again, and how do you know it will really solve their problem? So I'm really talking about a feedback system from your customer. Do you know if what you sell has made a difference to them, has changed their life, have made them happier people? So some level of customer service, which was alluded by Alex just now, and also above that, knowing how your customers are feeling towards your product, and real feelings, and also how to entice them to give their real feedback to you. How do you really know it has solved their problem in the way which you wanted to? So you need to articulate this. And if you're able to understand and articulate this, then there's a good chance of your business and your product growing. Yeah, and I've covered this. Yeah, so finally, just about the last few slides. Finally, you need to know whether are you making money. Eventually, if you put your cash in and cash out together, do you have a surplus cash sitting in your bank account? Eventually, you need to understand that. And having profits is going to be a technical accounting terms. Having profits doesn't mean having cash, because you can sell, but if people don't pay you for what you sell, it doesn't become cash. It is almost as good as not being able to generate cash. So you want to put in a system where what you sell get turned into cash quickly. So for example, asking for some upfront payment, giving them a strict credit term, which balances with your own need for cash outflow. So in other words, you can sell, you can have revenue, you can have profit, but you want to put in a system where they make sure that it becomes cash. And I'd like to just discuss on the last 3 points, which also alluded in our discussion earlier. Can a social enterprise be profit-oriented? Can it be cash generating? I think not only you can, you must. Even for social enterprise, even for a non-profit organization. Why? Because in any organization you run, be it a church, a non-profit, a charitable organization, you need money for a few things. Unfortunately, things are not created out of the thin air. You need resources, you need money to create them. And one of the things to create is, should you want to develop your business? Say, for example, even in a non-profit, You need to, if you are, let's say you're in a church, you need to grow maybe additional seats in your sanctuary. You need to have more rooms in, to accommodate more people. You need to put aside cash for development, basically, because an organization will develop. Whether you are social enterprise, whether you are non-profit or you are charitable, you need to put aside money for development. And thus, having the profit notion is not wrong. And again, running a business, running a organization that churn out profit is not evil. And I think if you need to, because you can only better serve your customers, your community, your residents. It's only when you start to develop and have a newer, forward-thinking development for your organization. So I want to put across that you need to be profit-oriented even if you're running a non-profit organization, because you need cash for these few things. Secondly, you need to pay yourself. Everybody needs to live. You need to pay bills. You need to pay rent. You need to pay yourself. No matter how noble entrepreneur you are. Nigel getting married, he need to pay himself because eventually he's going to start a family. He needs to have the profit to do that. For contingency, life is unpredictable. The roof may fall, the water tap may burst. You need to keep money for contingency. So you need to have surplus in whatever sort of organization you run, unapologetically. So if you have settled all these basic questions about business, about running an organization, then you are looking at the next phase. I mean, this is really business at the next phase. You got to think about how are different processes hanging together. Are the procurement process hanging well with the manufacturing process, with the operation process, with the IT process? How is everything hanging together? And you got to give yourself a sensing, are everything hanging together in an efficient way? So I'm coming into an area of productivity where you got to ask yourself, for me to go to the next stage, are my processes working together in the most efficient way? Because efficiency would mean cost savings. Efficiency will mean more possibilities and more pathway for development. Efficiency will enable you to have a better peace of mind for you to develop and grow your business even further. So you got to ask yourself, are these things hanging well together? And is there any further area to fine tune and streamline? So, last but not least, running a business, running an organization, be it, are you an entrepreneur or a business manager or a CEO, you got to ask yourself, are you mentally prepared for any surprises anytime? COVID has proven to us that things can happen anytime. That's totally out of our control. So what I'm pointing at, you need to have a certain mental resilience to be able to take shocks, to able to handle shock and surprises, even as you run the organization. Meaning that as you grow, you need to grow in a mental and a psychological robustness to be able to tell yourself when surprises come, I will still be calm. It could be in the context of you could have people surrounding you to give you the mental and psychological support, or you could just tell yourself, I'm mentally prepared for anything. Actually, when you tell yourself when you're mentally prepared for everything, you're actually more prepared than you are not, because already in your mind, there's something going on to say, yes, come what may, take it on, I will be able to face it. And I think this is important because even as we start and run a business, it starts from here. Of course, in our mind, we know that God will help us in our spirit, but how it's translated into practical working is the robustness and resilience of the mind to handle business issues, problems, and surprises and shocks. So there are 4 critical pieces, actually, even in the business. You need to have a plan. You need to know how your cash is flowing. Then you need to have a plan to develop, because a status quo plan will only die. Then you need to know what are the things that will make you fail? What are the issues? What are the pitfalls in the business that will make you fail? So even when you run a business and an organization, these are the four broad thought process you need to take yourself through. And I understand that for Shark Tank in a couple of weeks time, you need to have point number one. Excuse me. You need to have a plan. But running a business, you need to have these four things laid out for you as a radar, even as you go forward. Okay, I think that's all. That's all I have to share. Thank you very much for your attention. I welcome any questions if anybody may have, or comments even.
It's 12 o'clock in Singapore, Manila, 9 o'clock in Pakistan, 9:30 in India, and it's just at the hour of 10 in Vietnam. Questions, please, and comments very quickly as we're going to bring this part to a close. We're going to cut the recording here, and we'll have this available on audio format and video format.